You're listening to the Love Over Addiction podcast. Hey, you want to know what's so funny about this podcast? I've been doing it for years, and the hardest part is the intro, is recording the intro. Like, I overthink it so much, it's ridiculous that it takes me like 4 tries just to say hello and to get into the nitty gritty of what I want to talk about. It's ridiculous because I don't want to sound cheesy or fake because I don't do fake. So I don't want to be like, hey guys, I hate that. But I also don't want to be like a weirdo if you've never listened to me before and just get right into it because you're like, who is this chick? And then I don't want to talk about the virus again because I feel like I've been talking about that for too long. And I tend to use the same lines about the virus all the time. Anyways, whatever. So my intro today is how much I struggle with the intro. That's the realest thing I could tell you. Okay, today is a good episode. I'm really excited. Actually, the next 2 episodes I've written, and I think they're going to be good stuff. They're going to be real working episodes, kind of heavy. So feel free to like play them over and over again throughout the week if you need to. So when you love someone suffering from addiction, there are a boatload of feelings that arise in you almost instantly when you find out that they are drinking again. And it can feel like a roller coaster ride, can't it? Like 1 minute or 1 hour, you're feeling great because they've promised that they're going to get sober and you feel hopeful and you feel kind of full of joy, but you're also scared at the same time because you're thinking, is it really going to happen? And then the next minute you kind of like do a nosedive into that fear and you remember all the times that they've said they would get sober and they haven't. And so you kind of like park there for too long and you get worked up even though nothing has changed. They're not drinking, your relationship is still whatever it was 30 minutes ago, but all of a sudden now you feel terrible because you're reminiscing and you're digging too deep. And then you're like fear turns into anger. And then you're like, yeah. And I remember this time and, that time and who do they think they are? They should be great to me. And because I'm a wonderful partner and I'm a wonderful spouse and look at all the things I do for them. And then it kind of just spirals out of control and you work yourself up and it's exhausting. And then you find yourself so worked up and completely alone in all of this. And you can do it in a matter of minutes. I mean, it's that crazy loving someone with this disease. It can do a head trick on you, or do they say head trick? Mind trick? I don't know, whatever. You can spin out of control super fast for no apparent reason. Like, I know a buzzword these days is the word trigger, and you can get triggered. The thing with loving someone with addiction is we don't need any triggers. Like, we got enough triggers. Just sitting there watching a movie and zoning out can make us kind of go into a tailspin. So that is normal. Like, first and foremost, let's just put that out there. If what I just described to you happens to you, welcome to the club. Join us. It's fabulous. Not really. But yeah, totally normal. Don't judge yourself. Don't sit there and hate on yourself or beat yourself up for going into that roller coaster ride of emotions on an hourly, daily, whatever basis. Just sit there and go, you know what? If I'm choosing to stay, this is par for the course. And I'm going to work on this by working on myself and listening to this podcast. And maybe you join one of our programs, maybe not. But whatever, maybe you go see a therapist. But whatever it is, however you're getting help, in the moment, just recognize it and just say, this sucks. Acknowledge that it's not fair and that it is a terrible, awful side effect of loving someone suffering from addiction. And the good news, and there is good news, is that if you decide to stay or if you decide to leave, either way, the healthier you become, the less it's going to feel like a roller coaster. So like, I love metaphors and I love painting, images in my head of what's really going on. So imagine if you're at a theme park. I don't think, and I'm always real with you, so I don't think loving someone with addiction will ever not feel like some sort of ride at the theme park. Like, unfortunately, it's just such an unpredictable disease. There's so many factors and there's so much trauma and history. And there's so much temptation for the addict and for you that I don't think as long as you're in a relationship with someone with addiction, you're going to ride a ride. It's going to feel like a bit of a exciting, but overstimulating, scary at some points, unpredictable ups and downs, right? Like, that's truth. So, but I think if you get healthier, regardless if they get sober or not, the good news is if you get healthier and you really work on yourself and you stay in your lane and you figure yourself out, you get to know yourself very well. You get to understand how you've reacted to this disease and your negative behaviors. You also get to figure out why it is that you attracted this relationship in the first place. If you do all that work, all that uncovering and detective work and digging about yourself, I think the level of intensity in your ride will go down significantly. So I live in Florida, and I live in a small city that's close to Orlando. And I love Disney and Universal. Like, I am a total nerd. I don't have like figurines around my house. I'm not like that obsessed with it. Although I do have a friend that has a box of dolls in her closet, Disney dolls. We won't go there. That's a whole nother podcast. But I do love going to Disney and Universal with my kids. It's just joy. And so I don't know if you guys have ever been, but at Universal, they have this roller coaster called the Hulk. And when you first walk into the park, it's one of the first attractions you see, and it's green because it's after, the Hulk, the green guy. And it's got loop-de-loops and a really big drop. And I mean, it's pretty intense. I used to love it. I'm now about to be 43, and roller coasters, unfortunately, are not agreeing with me lately. I don't know why, but I used to love that ride. And it's like the most severe ride they offer. Or they actually have another one, Rock and Roller Coaster, which is also really fun. But I would say when you first start out in a relationship with an alcoholic or addict and you don't have any of the tools, like you're just fresh as a daisy, completely innocent, not knowing what you're getting into. Remember that? Like, you're so naive. You don't really understand what you don't understand. Probably for you, it was years ago. You are like waiting in line to get on the Hulk and you don't even know. Like, you're like, yeah, this ride doesn't look that bad. How severe can it be? And the Hulk is symbolic of your relationship with your loved one, with your alcoholic or addict. I think if you do the work, and it's funny because you get off the ride and your hair's all out of place and your heart is still beating fast and you're recovering and you're like, what the heck? That was severe and that's intense. That's kind of how you feel, right? With your first episode when they pull the whole drinking or drug using thing. After a while, you start to feel kind of beat up. That's how you feel after this roller coaster. But if you do your work, I think you can downgrade to, I'm trying to think of like a ride at Universal that's a lot. Oh, there's a ride. I actually think they're getting rid of it. There's a Shrek ride, like the movie, where it's more of like, just like you sit in the theater and you watch a movie and the theater seats kind of move a little, like they jiggle around when the part of the movie gets intense. That's what you want to aim for. Your ride will always kind of rock you a little bit, but you'll be on solid ground and you'll be able to recover a lot quicker. And some instances that used to feel like, you were shaked to the core, like the Hulk, will feel like Shrek. Those exact same instances, because you use the tools that you learned, will feel more like they will maybe move you just slightly, but you'll be able to walk out and be like, I'm fine, I'm good. That was nothing. That was a great. I enjoyed that, and I'm really proud of myself for not feeling afraid, terrified, wanting to get off or whatever. So that's kind of, if you do, it's a very weird analogy now that I think about it, but that's kind of the way you will grow in your relationship if you're willing to do the work. The way you recognize if you're not doing the work and you're not growing is every argument that you get into, or every time your loved one disappoints you, it feels like the Hulk ride. That's a sign that you're not growing, because they're always, if they're not in recovery, they're always going to offer you the same amount of drama. And you will always have the decision to react a certain way. And the way you react proves whether you're getting healthier and happier or whether you're remaining sick. It's not, a lot of people get this confused. It's not a way to tell if you are getting better is not based on their drinking or drug use. So if they had a great week and they didn't get drunk or use, that's not a sign that your relationship is getting better, that you're getting healthier, that what you're doing is working. You can take no credit for their sobriety or their choices. You don't get to do that. But what you can take credit for, and what you should be held accountable for, is the following week when they say, oh, the hell with my sobriety, and they go out and drink or use drugs, your reaction to that should continue to improve and be more mature, be more under control, be more intentional, be more healthy. And honestly, if you really want to take it to another level, the in-between time meaning when they chose to get sober, and then the time that they say, screw it, I'm not going to get sober, I'm going to drink. Those days, however many days that is, a way to tell if you are getting healthier is how you treat them on those in-between days. And most importantly, how are you treating yourself? So are you practicing wellness? Are you practicing self-care? Or are you obsessively worried about the next time they're going to drink? Are you being a complete nag or a Debbie Downer or moody or a stalker and, monitoring their every move? Or are you kind of detaching and saying, all right, I'm going to not worry about the next time if there is a next time they abuse drugs or alcohol. Instead, I'm just going to every day wake up and go, okay, what am I doing for myself? What kind thing am I doing for myself today? And you guys, listen, we're in a freaking pandemic. So please, when I say work on yourself, I don't mean doing things that sound exhausting and impossible. Working on yourself might be when they're drinking, you go in the other room, get on a treadmill and watch The Bachelor. Like, that might be your work. I'm not talking about you going and getting a book and highlighting and underlining. I mean, that's good too. Please read, research, do it. But let's not be too difficult on ourselves. Your self-care might be going for a walk around your neighborhood, I know by yourself, but creating a playlist of wonderful upbeat music and listening to that around the neighborhood, or listening to the program while you walk around the neighborhood, or calling a friend and intentionally being lighthearted and funny and laughing. You know, I had a friend over, don't worry, we're 6 feet away. And her husband's very paranoid because she's autoimmune compromised. And so we were very, very, very careful. But she was over the other day and we were sitting outside. She didn't even come in my house. But she really, really needed to have a conversation with me that was not appropriate over the phone. And it was about a pain and struggle she's going with her child. And it was serious, guys. I mean, it's as serious as you can get what's going on with her. But we laughed and laughed and laughed and found humor in the situation because it was absurd and ridiculous on a very deep level. But even it was so good. And she said, Michelle, I needed this so badly. I've been so intense and so walking on eggshells, and it's just been so depressing in my home. And the fact that we can laugh about it. And she said, she's like, I have to, because otherwise I just fall apart. So it's okay during these times to even really difficult times to find humor and to lighten it up. That's perfectly acceptable. So if and you're like, Michelle, I'm too depressed, I can't find the humor, maybe you put on a funny movie. I know my favorite movie is Clue. If you have not seen it, oh my goodness. I feel like I talk about it way too much on this podcast too, so I won't go down this trail again. People are rolling their eyes. They're like, not again. Do not mention that movie again. But it's just joy for me. The theme song is amazing. So I put on Clue when I'm feeling upset. My kids know as soon as they hear the theme song to the movie, they're like, oh, okay, mom's in a bad mood. Let's go sit down with her and watch Clue together. So that's what I'm talking about, you guys. I'm talking about making sure that you're taking care of yourself in between the times of their addiction. Okay. And we haven't even gotten, y'all, to like the really juicy part of this podcast yet. So I'm going to talk about the feelings that we feel when we're riding that roller coaster, okay? Because I think part of our recovery is being so kind and so gentle with ourselves for feeling these feelings that it's helpful to just name them. It's helpful to call them out. It's helpful for me, I think, to say, hey, this is how you might be feeling, and it's okay, and it's normal, and we all feel this way. And then hopefully you hear that and you can rest a little. You can, take some weight off of your shoulders and take a breath and you go, okay, I am where I'm supposed to be for now. And I am where, millions of other people are. And it's okay that I'm here. I'm going to learn from this. And I'm going to grow from this. I'm not going to stay here forever. This isn't my permanent destination. I'm going to accept where I am, and I'm going to work hard on moving through this, however long this takes. And for some of you, y'all are, excellent students. It will be a matter of months before you move through this and come out the other side. And for others of you in our community, it might take years. And that's okay. You go at the speed that you are comfortable going. I'm not here to accelerate you in any way whatsoever unless you're comfortable with that and you want that. And some of you do. Some of you are way overachievers, which is awesome. And some of you are much more go at your own pace, and that's awesome too. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to name some feelings that you might be feeling, and I'm going to ask you some questions with these feelings, okay? And remember, it's just you and me. So you can be completely honest with me because I don't judge you one bit, not 1 ounce. The only thing I'm here to offer you is complete empathy and compassion because I used to be exactly where you're at, all right? So I know these feelings. That's how I can come up with them because I used to feel them. Okay, so I'm going to say the feeling. I'm going to ask you some questions, and I want you to whisper yes or no. All right, just answer me out loud. I promise you it sounds weird and kooky, but I promise you if you answer out loud and you actively participate, something about it will just, the content that I'm about to give you will like be clearer and you'll remember it better. Okay, shame. Let's talk about that. Shame is something a lot of us feel when we love someone suffering from addiction, especially shame over staying in a relationship that secretly we kind of feel like we need to leave, right? So when we feel ashamed, we do some things. So I'm going to ask you, are you avoiding having people come over to your house because you're ashamed that of your alcoholic or addict's behavior? Are you declining invitations to events or, gatherings because you're ashamed of the idea that your loved one might act inappropriately, might embarrass you? Are you making excuses for them when people notice they are misbehaving? So let's say you actually said yes to one of these gatherings. And I know we are dealing with COVID, so there's not a lot of gatherings going on, but think in your past before this. And your loved one starts to be too flirtatious or slur their words or be aggressive and start swearing or making a mockery of themselves. Are you, and everyone kind of like side eyes their friends or, looks at you and you can feel judgment. Do you make excuses for them? No matter how much you know that, this is wrong. Are you defending them? Those are all signs and symptoms of shame. All right, the second emotion is fear. How often do we feel afraid? Oh my goodness. Afraid of our future, afraid of our loved one never getting sober and things not changing, afraid of the damage that this might be causing, our children. So signs and symptoms of fear. Do you monitor their drinking? That's a sign and symptom of being afraid. You're kind of being the hall monitor of their addiction. Do you constantly remind them of their promise to stay sober? That's a huge one, right? You're being a nag. You're being authoritarian. You're being or behaving like a parent instead of a lover or a partner. Do you refuse to go out or on vacation without them? This is really common. We kind of become prisoners of our own home, and we miss out on the joy of living our lives with others in community and in connection. We deny ourselves the right to enjoy seeing the world, experiencing new adventures, because we're afraid of what we might come home to or what they might do without us, right? They won't keep it together. Okay, the third feeling you might be feeling is anger. Oh my goodness, I went there. Anger. Why do women hate talking about anger so much? I do not understand. Women get angry about bringing up anger. Like, we're not supposed to feel this feeling. First of all, it's so normal to be angry. Everyone gets angry, and denying your anger is so unhealthy. I'm not talking about, going cray-cray on your loved one. That's not appropriate either. But acknowledging that you're feeling anger is completely okay. All right, so signs and symptoms of anger. Are you constantly trying to please your loved one? And when it's not enough for them to stay sober, are you furious? So when you are working so hard to please your loved one. I remember I used to work really hard by making sure the house was always clean and picked up before my husband came home, because he liked everything in perfect order. And picking up a house with infants was impossible. But right before he came home, I did 30-minute, clean, and every day. And it was ridiculous now that I look back on it. But that's what I did. So do you get super mad when they don't appreciate all that you're doing for them? That's a sign that you're feeling angry, right? You get super mad when they don't appreciate all you're doing for them. And then lastly, about anger, when they don't offer you the love and approval that you really desperately are looking for. You feel rejected and angry. Is that happening? Because if that is, then that's okay. It's okay that you're actually that you're looking for love and acceptance. But I'm just here to tell you, looking for love and acceptance from somebody who doesn't love and accept themselves is dangerous and an unfulfilling prophecy. It's turning to somebody who's broken, and that broken person cannot help you before they help themselves. So you got to find another source for your approval and your love. And just a hint, it's yourself. But that's another podcast. So that's feeling angry. Pain is the last feeling. Are you feeling a deep pain for loving someone suffering from addiction? I'm going to say yes, you have been. Do you have a compulsion to please and care for your loved one? A compulsion, guys. Next week, we're going to talk about how similar we are to our addict, and how we're kind of parallel, and our disease is parallel to their disease. But I'll save that for next week. But it has to do with, our disease has to do with a compulsion to please and care. We feel like we can't help ourselves. We're addicted to their addiction. Another symptom of pain, are you constantly trying to relate or help your loved one so they can be free of their shame or pain or fear and anger and finally get sober? I'm going to say yes. I bet you are. I bet you are constantly trying to relate and help. And why? Because you have a huge heart. And this is where I'm going to end this, okay? I want to park here. I want to say to you that one of the reasons you were drawn to this relationship is not because you're sick and not because you have self-esteem issues. And that could be true. Maybe you didn't, get along with your family. Maybe you're the black sheep. Maybe you had an abusive parent, whatever. But we're not going to focus on that today. Today, we're going to focus on one of the other reasons why you were drawn into this relationship. And that is because you are one of the most caring, thoughtful, emotionally loving person that you know. Oftentimes, I think we wish we had a friend like us in our lives because we care on such a deep level that it's almost unmatched. And it can leave us feeling incredibly empty because we are willing to give away everything we have, everything we own for that person, someone, anyone, to feel better. Our love has no limits. It has no bounds. It's the most powerful motivation we have is our hearts and how much we care. And sometimes that can get us into trouble, right? Like we're kind of in a bit of a situation right now with our relationships because we followed our hearts and we cared too much and we loved too hard. But it also, what do you think changes the world? What do you think mends brokenness? It's love, it's thoughtfulness, it's caring, it's people like us. So before you beat yourself up for finding yourself in this situation, maybe some of you, this is your third or fourth relationship with someone suffering from addiction. That's very common. It's okay. You're here now. You're learning and you're growing and you're healing, and it might not always feel like that all of the time, but I promise you that things are going to improve if you just remain in presence and remain conscientious of your responsibility and your decisions, and you get to know yourself. You take this as an opportunity to grow into the person that you were destined to become. That takes time. We can't jump there immediately. So let's just be kind to ourselves. And part of knowing ourselves is knowing that we have these incredible, thoughtful, huge hearts. Okay? So that is it for today's podcast. I love you. I am thinking of you all of the time. I really am. And I'm so grateful that I'm getting to know some of you inside our secret Facebook group. Here's the deal. I want you to join our program. And this is not a sales pitch, so hear me out. If you cannot afford the program, I don't want you to not get help. We have a buy one, give one. So for those of you that want to join and you say, Michelle, I have no money, and I know some of you have no money. I know some of you have $2 left in your bank account after paying bills. I do not want you to go, continue to be in pain because you can't afford to get help. So we will give a program to somebody who cannot afford one, because I'm not in this to become rich. I'm not becoming rich. I'm in this because I want to make you guys feel better, and I want to offer you some tips. I am not a guru. I am not a therapist. I try very hard not to overpromise. I try very, 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 very hard not to be salesy because I hate that crap. But I do want to say, if you are on the fence and you are thinking about taking your healing and your help to another level, and you're ready to commit to listening to just 5 to 10 minutes every day, I want you to consider the idea of joining our community. You're going to make friends with people instantly on that secret Facebook group if you want to. If you're not a joiner, that's fine. But there is nothing better than finding other women who are right where you're at or who have been right where you're at that are willing to offer you advice for what they've gone through or tips of what they've done that has helped them. Because I'm just one person, but there are hundreds, thousands of people in our community that can offer you really great advice. That's another opinion and another aspect other than me, because ultimately what my goal is to get you inside our community and then fill you with complete confidence and love and assurance and reward your vulnerability with a group of people that are going to cheer you on no matter what you decide. There are women in our community who have stayed. There are women in our community who have left. There are women in our community of all different ages, but it is women only, because the one thing I'm absolutely committed to is safety. Don't mess, I will do anything for safety. So there are no men in our group. Sorry, guys. You can join the program, but you cannot join our secret Facebook group. And we will do everything we can to protect your confidentiality. So some of you wonder, if I join the program, does a package arrive on my front door? No. Does love over addiction come up on my credit card bill? No, it does not. It says Clopay Media. And we did that intentionally to not raise red flags. We have payment plans, so if you're worried about a credit card bill, it can easily be, hidden. Listen, no pressure here. These podcasts are great. You don't want to join? Fine. I refuse to be a salesperson. Oof, hate that. But I will say that I don't want money to be an obstacle for you. And if you do buy a program, know that for every program is purchased, you're actually giving one away to a woman who can't afford it. So you're actually paying it forward, which I think is just a wonderful gift and a wonderful commitment and something that you can feel good about. Okay, that is it for me. I hope that I see you inside the secret Facebook group. If I do not, I still love you and I welcome you to just listen every week and you take your time with your healing. I'm here to support you either way. Talk to you later.
This podcast is created for your support, encouragement, and entertainment with Michelle's personal thoughts and beliefs. From one woman to another, bonded together by the fact we love someone suffering from addiction. This is not intended as a substitute for therapy or advice from a professional.